It is a rare glimpse into backroom politics. Global News has obtained a recording of a meeting hosted by one of Calgary's most prominent home builders. It outlines a plan to control City Council in the next election. Doug Vason has more in this NewsHour exclusive.
There are some people that are on the City Council that are totally out of control.
This video of a meeting held last November shows Cal Wenzel, the founder of Shane Homes, outlining a plan to get council under control by the next election.
Let's start with Ward 1.
Speaking to a group apparently made up of 150 building professionals, Wenzel runs through a list of councillors he approves of and says he is supporting with campaign donations.
Keating we've looked after, Diane we've looked after, Peter DeMont.
Those he wants replaced.
Drew Farrell, Jesus, Jay didn't send anybody to do either.
And those he's unsure of.
At one time where Bookmans was kind of guided as to, maybe vote for us when it comes up, and then he forgot to ask any questions and forgot to vote the right way.
Wenzel says millions of dollars a year are at stake for developers.
So unless we get somebody in there that's really going to, be more on our side than the dark side, we're talking another 4 years after next October.
And he doesn't think Naheed Nenshi, the most popular mayor in the country, can be defeated.
Dimitri asked me a question a little earlier on. Can anyone beat Nenshi? And I said, no, likely not.
Instead, the plan appears to be to fund developer-friendly candidates and defeat the mayor by outvoting him in council.
When I talked to Dave Bronconnier, Dave is sitting there saying, it doesn't matter if you got the mayor on your side or not. You need 8 votes. So as long as you have 8 votes, you can control whatever happens.
In addition to what he says, the former mayor told him, Wenzel also talks about a major donation to a right-wing think tank, founded by former federal opposition leader Preston Manning.
Keeping in mind, in order to bring Preston on board, 11 of us put up $100,000, so $1.1 million. So it's not like we haven't put up our money. And we're going to be there to put it up again, and we're also supporting the candidates.
The tape, released by a source Global News has agreed to protect, is prompting strong reactions.
I think it is the smoking gun. It's clear that there's an expectation from the developers that you will do our bidding, and there'll be no independent. We will tell you how to vote.
But to actually see this live, captured on tape in this way, I mean, look, it's very distasteful. And as viewers watch this, I think that they would agree that this is shadowy and weird and unpleasant.
Doug joins us now for some context on this. And Doug, why is Wenzel so upset?
Linda, it comes down to the cost of growth and who pays for what. On the video, Wenzel says things have changed and builders have to pay attention now. The city says it needs more sustainable growth and things can't continue as in the past.
Old way of doing things simply won't work any longer. We are reaching, if we haven't already, reached a fiscal cliff with the cost of growth.
I have no idea what this small group of extremely wealthy individuals is so mad about. Our housing starts are really healthy. They all admit that the industry is extremely profitable.
Nenshi is also calling for an investigation into possible wrongdoing based on what he's seen in the video. Tomorrow we'll explain why and bring reaction from those Cal Wenzel names during what was recorded of the meeting. Linda?
Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
Wenzel declined our repeated requests to comment on our story until he saw the video. Former Mayor Dave Bronconnier denies through his lawyer he ever spoke with Wenzel about this. Preston Manning is currently in Australia, but the centre is aware of our story and is considering its response. Calgary's mayor is looking for some answers tonight after a Global News investigation. It's a story we broke yesterday. A prominent home builder recorded at a meeting presenting a plan to control council in the next election. Doug Vason has the latest.
So for whatever and however, we have to ensure that we end up with the 8 votes.
That's the plan as outlined by Cal Wenzel, founder of Shane Homes, to get around Mayor Nenshi by outvoting him on council. But in this meeting with industry people last November, some say Wenzel opened the door to an investigation.
Keeping in mind, in order to bring Preston on board, 11 of us put up $100,000, so $1.1 million. So it's not like we haven't put up our money. you know, and we're going to be there to put it up again, and we're also supporting the candidates.
Mayor Nenshi says he feels those donations may add up to a huge violation of the Local Election Act.
An admission that the money that these folks have raised, far, far, far in excess of what they're allowed to give to any candidate, has been used by the Manning Centre to hire an employee to work for this group. Well, that's a donation in kind.
We reached Manning Centre Director Chuck Strahl in Regina tonight for reaction. He says it's the video that is shadowy, not the content.
This is not Cal's dream. This is Preston's dream, the municipal governance project. So what we've done is solicited funds from people, including these developers, to help us put this municipal governance project together. So when we solicit those funds, we have a contribution agreement that they sign that this is what the funds will be used for. So it's not a matter of getting Preston on side. It's in our case, it's a matter of getting contributors on side.
Nenshi also wants Municipal Affairs to look at this disclosure.
Drew Farrell, well, in case anyone doesn't know, she doesn't like me, and I don't particularly like her. I had 13 trucks out last election delivering signs and assembling them, and I got called by Drew in the elections because they said I'd given $5,000 in cash, so therefore my trucks that were out delivering put me over the $5,000 limit.
The maximum amount during any 1 year is $5,000 per candidate. Kevin Taylor is the candidate in question. He accepted a maximum donation from Shane Holmes. Only 3 trucks, he says, showed up to help, and they were volunteers.
Cal followed the rules, as I would expect, and I am vigilant.
Political scientist Dwayne Bratt says there is enough smoke in the air to warrant a closer look in both cases. And at the very least, the province should look at tightening up the loopholes and reforming election law.
I would hope so. I think they missed an opportunity last fall when they amended the law, that they could have really taken further steps, both provincially and municipally, around issues of disclosure.
Doug Basin joins us with more on this. And Doug, who would lead an investigation into this?
Well, any look at campaign reform would have to come from Municipal Affairs Minister Doug Griffiths. In Edmonton today, the minister called the video disappointing and unfortunate. But a spokesperson with the ministry says it has no jurisdiction to launch an investigation unless a formal complaint is made. So far, there's been no complaint. And the man at the center of the storm, Shane Holmes founder Cal Wenzel, says he is prepared to meet the media and answer questions tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
Well, you can imagine the talk this video has generated at City Hall. In the recording, Cal Wenzel of Shane Holmes names names. Reed Feist has more now of the exclusive footage.
On tape, Shane Holmes' Cal Wenzel makes it clear who he believes are friendlies on City Council.
And Peter DeMond, I think, has done a real good job for us to this point. Jim Stevenson, there's no concerns there. Shane Keating, Shane has proved to be a really, really good guy. I even congratulate him on some of the stuff that he's done, only because he appears to use logic and common sense, which is a wee bit lacking at City Hall right now.
All 3 told Global News they would not speak out until seeing the entire video. Neither Ward 10's Andre Chabot or Ward 13's Diane Colley-Urquhart returned our calls for reaction to Wenzel's comments about them.
Andre Chabot, good guy, but of course he came out and spoke against the mayor and a few other people. He got ostracized. Most of the time she didn't have time to really pay attention, but she's assured us now that she will, and so Diane Colley-Urquhart, that's really prepared to work, is a good person for us, I believe.
Wenzel says he's spoken to Ward 5's Ray Jones, but Jones says there's no formal relationship.
Ray Jones, again, my only concern is Ray is so sick and tired of being lied to by administration that he may decide not to run.
Wenzel isn't sure about Ward 2's Gord Lowe.
But I don't think you can count on Gord Lowe. And Gord might fit in the gray on the circle.
Lowe wouldn't comment directly on that allegation, but doubts he nor anyone else is being influenced.
Candidly, I don't think there's anybody in this place is in anybody's pocket.
Richard Bootmans, he's kind of so-so. I know there's a few here that like him, there's a few that don't.
The way I come to a decision is I talk to all sides, I listen to the experts, I listen to all stakeholders, I ask a ton of questions, and at the end of that, I come to a decision.
And Wenzel's not a fan of Ward 9's John Carlo Carra.
So we've known this guy for a long time. He's not in the same world as we are.
Who controls the future of Calgary? Is it a very elite, sort of super wealthy, Mr. Burns-esque shadowy group, or is it the citizens of Calgary?
Wenzel on Brian Pincott.
You know, some of the things that we hear about, you know, coming out of Brian's unbelievable, but, you know, and I'll get into that just a little bit later on.
This kind of thing underlines people's sort of, I guess, underlying distrust of government, and that is really sad because they shouldn't be distrustful of government.
And the group on John Marr.
He's a little bit wishy-washy. You know, we're never sure if he's in the gray or in the purple or just where he's at. So I'm not sure on that one there.
Firstly, I make decisions based on what's best for the citizens of Calgary, the people of my ward, and the city of Calgary itself.
Reed Feist, Global News.
To read what was said about everyone on council, we have transcripts in our story on our website, and we have now posted the entire video as it was given to Global News. You can find both at globalnews.ca/Calgary. A video obtained by Global News captured the founder of Shane Homes outlining a plan to control a majority vote in chambers. As Doug Vason reports, Cal Wenzel is defending his actions and says he's done nothing wrong.
I won't allow my integrity to be questioned without answering back.
A defiant Cal Wenzel says he isn't sorry about any of his remarks caught on video last November.
No.
And he came out on the offensive against the person who secretly taped the meeting.
It's one of the most cowardly things I've ever seen done. If this was a private meeting and 100 people were invited.
Are you seeking out finding out who that is?
Oh, we'll find out. We are pretty close on finding it out now.
What would you do about that?
I can't say.
Wenzel says it's his democratic right to judge candidates and organize support for those he thinks will be pro-development. As for controlling council,
An attempt to buy a council, buy an election, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Wenzel says he didn't expect anything in return from donations made to some councillors. And when he appears to go a little further on the video,
Like I know of one time where Bootmans was kind of guided as to, you know, maybe vote for us when it comes up, and then he forgot to ask any questions and forgot to vote the right way.
Wenzel now says he is being misunderstood.
That's just my, my take on it, but whether he votes right or wrong, that's up to him.
I had 13 trucks out last election delivering signs and assembling them, and I got called by Drew in the elections because they said I'd given $5,000 in cash, so therefore my trucks that were out delivering put me over the 5,000 limits.
There is also denial of any admission of violating the Election Act during the 2010 campaign.
That was possibly a misword there, but yes, I didn't send trucks out. I have people, that work with me that have our trucks, and they volunteered to put up signs for Kevin Taylor.
That doesn't satisfy those still calling for an investigation into election violations. As for going after the person who released the video, some think it's an act of valor, not cowardice.
Full credit to whoever brought this out, because his economic interest is probably with this group. And he probably sat there and go, this is ethically, morally wrong. I may agree with the sentiment, I may not like the mayor, I may wish that city council did things that I liked, but this is going beyond the pale.
Doug Vason joins us with more. And Doug, Wenzel also confirmed today Preston Manning was at that November meeting and spoke to the builders.
Linda Wenzel says Manning gave a presentation at the beginning of the meeting. That wasn't part of the recording given to Global News. It happened sometime before Wenzel told the audience he and 10 others donated a total of $1.1 million to the center to bring Preston on board. Both Wenzel and the Manning Center deny there was anything wrong with the donations, but the mayor wants a closer look at the relationship.
You are not allowed to be a tax-exempt organization if the work that you do directly benefits your donors. So again, I think the Canada Revenue Agency is going to have an interesting look at the functions of that organization and determine if the charitable arm is free and clear, and also if the non-profit but non-charitable arm is also acting in contravention.
Now, the controversy and the questions seem far from over, with renewed and growing calls for an investigation. Linda?
Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
A Council of Calgary Unions is joining those calls for an investigation, saying someone has to get to the bottom of this. But as Mia Sosiak reports, some surprising legal rules leave that up to whomever is prepared to pursue it.
Calgary's labor unions want answers about this now infamous video and whether Shane Holmes contributed more donations in the 2010 municipal election than allowed.
We need to look and to investigate and to have some transparency and accountability around this, absolutely. And we have a limit, and the limit needs to be respected.
The group joins Mayor Nenshie's call for someone to find out whether campaign laws were violated. But Calgary's own returning officer, Barb Clifford, says her hands are tied.
The city has absolutely no authority to investigate any of the issues.
And that, she says, is the way it should be.
There is an impartiality and a neutrality in the position of who is running the actual election. And I think it would be better to keep the enforcement of those kinds of things out.
So who launches an investigation then? Not Elections Alberta, which only deals with provincial elections, and not municipal affairs. It's up to an individual or city council to launch a complaint through the justice system, because under Alberta law, even the ministry can't investigate on its own.
We set out the legislation in the Local Authority Election Act that sets the limits and the timelines and stuff, so that's the role that we play in it, and it gives everyone access to the courts in order to pursue any violations of that act.
The onus is then flipped from a body that's independently funded to the citizens having to put their own money up to ensure the integrity of the election process. And I think fundamentally that needs to change.
The mayor says he might pursue a complaint himself, but feels he may not have to.
The citizen input that we've had on this has been extraordinary. And I suspect there's a lot of citizens who'd be perfectly happy to write an email to Minister Griffiths right now.
Mia Sosiak, Global News.